Hello and welcome. So glad you've joined us for the third part in our series around adopting AI, using AI in the mainframe environment. My name is Mitch Ashley, and I lead the software lifecycle engineering practice with the Futurum Group. Now, we're going to be talking about acting with confidence. We're using AI as a change agent or agent of change, if you will. And I have a great guest with me talking today about this topic, Anthony DeSaro. Anthony is Senior Director of Architecture for AI with BMC Software. And our series is presented or sponsored by BMC Software. We thank them very much for putting this together. Anthony, welcome.
Mitch, thanks for having me.
It's been great. The first two segments we've gotten to do together has been really fantastic. So I'd really love to hear more about kind of AI agents or agentic AI and how this differs from the traditional AI, generative AI type solutions we've been talking about.
Absolutely. And this is my favorite subject of late. I've been spending a lot of time in the space around AI agents and agentic AI. Basically, it comes down to autonomy with AI. So in our first two segments, we talked about AI as an advisor and AI as a partner in the second segment. Now, great conversation around that, but there's one fundamental challenge with both of those perspectives on AI. It's a reactive model, Mitch, right? The AI is waiting for you and I to go interact with it, whether that's a chat experience or even it's infused in a product experience. It's sitting there waiting for us to go interact with it. This is wonderful technology. This is great technology. We don't want it sitting idle 24/7 waiting for us to approach it. We want this technology to work for us 24/7. So this is what I like to talk to our customers about is this is a shift from reactive AI to proactive AI with AI agents, where we can have agents that are running, again, 24/7, working on a task, working on achieving a goal. These agents would observe the data in their environment. They reason over this data to make decisions on what they should be doing. And then this is what sets it apart. Now, the agents or the AI acts upon that decision that it makes. It takes an action. And the best part of that is after that sequence, the agent can learn from that experience and get better at its craft or at its work that it's trying to do. So agents could exist in different organizations, and over time, those agents would learn and grow to that particular environment. This is a game changer when it comes to the AI space.
Now, what does that look like in a mainframe environment? Could you have some examples of things you might have an agent, tasks it might perform, things that it might do for you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I know the previous segments we talked a lot about, let's go back to the COBOL example that we had. The COBOL code does, code explain, for example, or explain a given situation in your ops space. Well, let's go back and look at the COBOL example. Instead of just explaining the code, maybe now the AI agents can get to a point where they could do a code review. They could make recommendations on how to improve the code. The AI agent could actually fix the code itself, right? So this is where the agents of change come in, where agents of action come in. So it's no longer just giving you information. It can go out there, look at the code, improve the code for you, do a pull request, and get it back into the system all on its own without potentially human involvement in that. But we are nowhere near that part of total autonomy with AI agents. Our approach and the approach that we see a lot going on in industry today, Mitch, is keeping that human in the loop. Why we want to keep that human in the loop? We want to keep controls and guardrails around the AI and its decision making so that we understand what the AI is going to do. And then maybe you hit that button in the user experience and you tell the AI, yep, I agree with what you're going to do. I'm going to go run some script to fix some database problem. And you could say, yes, go off and do that. I agree with your steps. So the way you want to look at this, and the way we're looking at this, is AI agents as actual digital workers, and orchestrate these digital workers just like you would your staff within your organization. You're going to give these AI agents very focused responsibilities and jobs to do, and they will get better at that job over time with that learning capability I mentioned before. So it's that taking that next step. And I'll give you just a real quick example. So I created an application about 3 weeks ago, and I had 3 AI agents that I created that were with me in my development environment. And we created this whole app over a 4-day period, and I did not write one line of code. I didn't write any code to generate test cases, run those unit tests. I didn't write any code to deploy it to containers and into my containerized environment. The AI agents did that all for me, and I was just orchestrating them just like I would an engineering team over my career. And it was fabulous experience.
It really is pretty amazing to see AI work and doing so much of that for us. Yeah, I think of my own experiences, Anthony, of code bases where part of it hasn't been touched for a long time. Folks that may have been done that have long gone, and everyone's reticent about even going into it and trying to make any changes, more or less understand it. Think about the power, not just of freeing us up to do other tasks, but also going back and doing more with the code that we have, the things that we may have, not wanted to touch for a long time. I'd love to hear your perspective about this. Isn't an all or nothing when we talk about agents or agentic AI. It isn't turn everything over. You mentioned about, let me review your work. Okay, yes, go ahead and perform that task. Talk about that. We talk about human in the loop. Talk about that process of how we judge. We start to use AI more and more to do agentic processes, but we still have control over what's happening.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's based on the technology itself today in the state that we're in. Even though we've made tremendous strides over the past 2 years, we're still in a very early stage. And, AI in every agentic system that you use today, you see the messages that come out that AI could make mistakes. You should double check what AI is telling you, etc. And really, that's what it's all about. So even the example where I built this app over this 4-day period with AI agents, the AI agents didn't do anything without my approval. So if it generated a script or it generated a module or whatever I was directing it to do, I'm still a very seasoned engineer. I sit there, I study the code that it generated or the things that it wants to do in my environment, and I am given that approval to move ahead with that action. That's where we are today. That's where we need to be in the near future. So when we build AI agents and we look at use cases for our agentic system, that's what we're looking at to address is how do we have these agents that are working 24/7 on some use case, but how do we connect that human back into the loop for that oversight that needs to happen? You almost want to look at the AI agents as a junior staff member, right? They're going to go off, they're going to go do things, and they're going to say, okay, I want to go off and do this. You and I today would review that, right? That young developer or that young ops person that's new in our space, we would, review what they're proposing to do, and then we would give them the green light to go do it or not, or we would have an exchange with them on how to make it better and improve it based on our experiences. It's the same thing with AI agents today. You give the green light when you want the agent to go off and do that based on your satisfaction with what it wants to do. And then you could also then guide that agent on how to make better decisions over time. It's a real fascinating area that we're getting into. I'm telling you, Mitch, the use of agents in an agentic AI system is going to completely change how we build software systems moving into the future. We are just scratching the surface on this. Usually, from a BMC AMI portfolio perspective, we deliver a lot of functions and features through our product experiences across the breadth of our portfolio. Imagine a future where BMC software delivers solutions as a collection of agents that get deployed and then augment our existing solutions or provide additional insights to you. But it gets delivered as agents. These agents then could be reused amongst many different use cases, right? So, you know what, back in the day when we got into this whole mindset of reusable services, right? And service-oriented architecture, it's like you want to create the services to do specific jobs. And then we tie all these services together to build a system. It's the same mindset with these with AI agents. It's like we're going to create this pool of AI agents, but then we're going to start to mix and match these agents to come up with use cases that were unimaginable just a few short years ago.
It has drastically changed our business already. We create software totally different than we would have 6-12 months ago. It's really pretty amazing. You said the word guidance, I think is really kind of the human in the loop. It isn't just approval. It is, yes, I'm guiding where AI is going for me, what the agent is doing. Now, there's some other things that I think you need to have in place, right? When we talk about trust in what the agent is doing. So you want to know what it did and how it did it and what happened. What are those things that you need to have in place to be able to get that information, to have that oversight and insight to what's happening?
Yeah. So, we talked about having that transparency or that observability level in your AI system. Well, that pushes right down into the AI agents, right? An AI agent, first of all, when we create an AI agent for a specific goal or task to achieve, there are things that we do when we build the AI system to make sure we ground that agent to only do that type of work that it was set out to do. And there's different AI techniques that we use to do that. But at the end of the day, that agent itself is totally auditable, traceable, all the observability, it's all there in that individual agent that we're creating. So all of our agents that we create part of our agentic system inherit this. The other thing that we could do is, I mentioned that we can infuse into BMC AIME Assistant additional knowledge from the LLM. Well, now with AI agents, to keep them grounded and guardrailed to do the jobs they want, we can infuse into the AI system specific pieces of knowledge that is targeted for a particular agent in that system. So the agent will use a language model. The agent will use knowledge-based information, whether that's provided by the customer or provided by us, targeted to that particular agent. Everything to keep that agent grounded or fenced to do just that task or goal that it was designed to do. And again, totally auditable. So you can get into like the admin console for BMC AIME Assistant. You'll be able to explore all the agents that we have, and you'll be able to get to all that observability information for those agents in the same way you would for an entire agentic system.
Yeah, I like to think of it as we don't have to just have free range agents where they're operating on information and data that we provided. There's the concept of artifacts, right? These are sort of the rules of the road. Here's how we operate, or what things we do when we use certain terms in our prompts. There's also, that becomes the canonical knowledge that you're using to set those guardrails and processes. Talk about how you take, we're learning how to use AI too while we're implementing agents and new technology. And that can become part of this long-term expertise and knowledge that we're creating through using AI.
100% agree with that segment. Yes, absolutely. It's so transformative in what's going to happen with AI agents. It's the level of trust will come with AI agents over time. And I just want to say this, that we're nowhere near AI agents replacing a human being. That it's really kind of disturbing to read that. And when folks are talking about that, we're so far away from that when it comes to AI. The way we should be looking at AI agents is digital workers that make you and I better at our job day in and day out, and make our solutions better day in and day out, deliver higher value to our customers day in and day out. That's the way we should be looking at AI agents as we move forward on this journey.
Very good. Thoughts on next steps for folks that want to move into this more agentic type process? I'm sure it's not jump into the deep end of the pool, right? There's a stepwise approach that you can take to take in on certain kinds of work, what kinds of risks you want to take on, et cetera.
Yeah. So when you start looking at agents that you want to build out for your agentic system, start with agents in that advisory role, right? One of the things, and why I'm heading this way, one of the things that we learned is when you treat your AI system as a monolith, where it's trying to handle all kinds of requests coming across, so your portfolio, just like every one of us, if we're overtaxed doing many, many different things, we're not really good at any one particular thing. But with AI agents, where you can give them specific language models to use, specific knowledge to use, specific guidance to use on what their job and role is, all of a sudden the responses you're getting from the AI system are really accurate and really good. So even if you're getting into the realm of, let's just start with the advisor part of it, start breaking down your areas of advisement into different advisor agents. And you'll see how much better those responses are from the AI system when you can focus those agents around its advisement responsibility. Start there. That's a really, really, really good starting point. When you want to start moving into the actionability part of that, and it doesn't have to be actionability as far as, dealing with something tangible that puts your production environment at risk. When we talk about an AI agent taking an action, it could be simply observing a situation and sending you an email and just bringing something to your attention. That's actionability. But it's just sending an email or sending a message to a Teams channel or whatever it may be. You could have those levels of actionability. It doesn't have to be things like, IPL mainframe or something, right?
Start killing processes. No, please don't.
Right. Starting jobs and things of that nature. No, we're not talking about that. So advisement, observing a situation, and maybe just sending emails and notifications. So start with the notifications. That will start building, again, the trust with agents and start building you down. It will start moving you down the road towards an agentic AI system. And as the technology that we're using evolves over time, our agents will evolve with that technology. Our agents will learn and grow within the environment they're running. Our agents will learn and grow with each other, because we've been, right now up to this point, we've been talking about individual agents doing a particular task. But in a true and agentic system, this is where you could actually orchestrate more than one agent to work together as a workforce or a digital team to solve complex multi-step IT problems. As an example, you would have multiple agents working together to solve problems. And then when you follow that with using open industry standards like the MCP, the Model Context Protocol, to connect agents to real-time systems, or agent-to-agent protocol to get agents to communicate with each other, we get to a point where my organization, I'm creating AI agents, you're creating AI agents. All of a sudden, we get to a point where we can collaborate on use cases together. You provide a certain amount of agents, I provide a certain amount of agents. They work together and collaborate to solve problems. So I see us at BMC working very closely with our customers in this journey, because our customers too will be rolling out agentic AI systems in their environment. And I can see us working with our customers and collaborating on use cases with our collective agents together. So it's going to open up lots of opportunity, open up lots of doors for options as we go forward. Very exciting. This is the game changer. This is the transformative part of AI in the enterprise.
What a great time to be in technology. It really is. It is exciting and fun.
And
You know,
all on the frame, right?
yeah, all on the mainframe. It is. I love the way that this series came together, Anthony, and I appreciate your insights, and also folks like Eric Odell and the team at BMC Software that helped put this together. Thinking about this process, this journey you go through of using it as an advisor, learning what you need to learn to move on to the next step, to use it as a partner, AI as a partner, and then into more the operator, the agent. And I think that this is a really good series. I think that will help people along as they get to that place in their journey. Like, okay, I get what they were talking about. I see now how I can do this maybe a little different than I was thinking before I used it. So thanks again. We appreciate all of your knowledge and your insights, and we hope everybody has gotten a lot out of this series. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Thank you to BMC Software for having the foresight to put this together and help all of us on this journey that we're on together. And that's the important part. We're in this together. So we'll see you next time, hopefully on another series, on another conversation about AI adoption and use in the mainframe environment. Take care, everybody.
Hi, everyone. It's Alan Schimmel, founder, CEO here at Techstrong, and welcome to our continuing series on AI, agentic AI, the future, here with the Microsoft team and our Futurum analyst team, as well as Techstrong. In this next episode, though, we're going to be joined by Mitchell Ashley of Futurum, who leads the software development lifecycle and building segment at Futurum. And Mitchell is talking with Brian Good, whose official titles is Corporate Vice President at Agents Marketing. But Brian is really here talking about agent apps and chat. And it's obviously a very hot topic as we move to an agentic AI workflow-based basis. So let's join Mitchell and Brian here with me, and it's great to have them both.
My name is Mitch Ashley, and I'm VP and Practice Lead of the Software Lifecycle Engineering Practice at Futurum Research.
And Mitch, my name is Brian Good. I lead the business applications and agents team here at Microsoft.
Let's start here. 2025 is described as kind of an inflection point for AI adoption. What do you think are the most significant changes that you've seen in organizations as they're using AI and agents in their businesses this year?
Well, I absolutely agree. 2025 is really an inflection point, and we'll sometimes describe it as the year that the frontier firm was born. And you might have heard us talk about the frontier firm before. It's this idea of companies that are putting AI really at the heart of their business, and it's enabling them to do things like reinvent the way they engage with customers or transform their business processes inside their company. And beyond. And it's really the year these frontier firms are sort of rising up, and a time when I think we can learn a lot from these early adopters and understanding how they're deploying AI, how they're being successful, and then figure out how we can take those insights and bring them to our own businesses. That's where you can have outsized impact.
As AI transforms those functions, what do you see as the new patterns of work that's enabled by Copilot and agents as customers start leveraging the technology for productivity or innovation?
I'll tell you what, I have studied these frontier firms as they come up, and there's really three patterns that I see across these frontier firms. The first is really enabling employee productivity. So they give every employee an AI assistant like Microsoft 365 Copilot, and it helps those employees be more productive. The second pattern that I see is really these frontier firms deploying AI to automate existing business processes. So, for example, they already have a way of handling expense reports, but they can use AI to speed that up and reduce costs. And that certainly results in some benefits to the customer. The third pattern is really where a customer starts from the beginning, let's say from first principles, and they reimagine a function altogether. They'll reimagine what it means to engage with a customer who has an issue with their product, and they'll put agents at the heart of that. Most companies can only take on one or two of these functional transformation projects at any given time because it's a big lift. Again, it's reimagining a function from first principles. It's not just taking existing processes and applying AI to them.
How far along do you think most organizations are in their adoption cycle for generative AI?
Well, I think we're still in early innings. There's no doubt about that. Customers are starting to deploy AI in different functions, as we talked about, but certainly they haven't, in most cases, fully realized kind of the transformation that AI can have across their organization. So it's still very early innings. But I'd say we see very promising signs and green shoots of that adoption and success. Again, the key really here is to start function by function. Think about a particular function. Think about peeling it back to the business processes you need to go focus on. That's where you can have outsized impact.
How do you define agentic business applications and why are they critical for organizations?
Yeah. Well, I do have a vision that the application of old is really transformed with AI. And we call that new type of application the agentic business application. And the agentic biz app includes the assistant for the human to start to use. It includes pre-built business process agents that basically take the drudgery out of work. And then it's built on a data foundation. And so instead of being limited just to the data that, maybe is in the CRM system or the ERP system, it joins that with data from other lines of business systems and even productivity data so that you have a rich set of data that you can build agents on top of, and you can empower your humans to get better decisions from. And so this idea that brings all those together, the assistant, the agent, the application, I call the Agentic Biz app, and I think it's a really big idea.
Let's talk about why you're optimistic about the future of agentic business applications.
I have a lot of optimism here because number one, I see customers already deploying these applications and really transforming their business. So I already see people starting to get great benefit from it. But at a more human level, the thing that gets me excited is like if you think about every one of our jobs, like there's a lot of stuff that we end up having to do that really isn't adding joy to our lives. Me doing an expense report or, filling out a CRM system, with an update from a customer call. Those aren't the things that make us unique. Those aren't the things that bring joy. Those aren't really even things that add business value collectively. But if we can delegate those things to AI and agents, I think we'll enable ourselves to actually go do far bigger things and really take our ambition to the next level. And so I am absolutely excited for what the future holds.
I'd love to hear about how you see the role of AI agents evolving just over the next few years, especially as organizations start to redesign core business processes, drive outcomes for efficiency. How do you see this taking shape?
Yeah, great question. I would say that we really believe there's a spectrum of agents. There will be very simple agents that someone will use that might just be grounded on a particular knowledge source and help you, understand, what might happen from that knowledge source. Then there'll be task-based agents, and then there'll also be more sophisticated, fully autonomous agents as well. And this more autonomous agents is where you can unlock a lot of business value. These are agents that aren't called by a human. They're just running independently. They're triggered based on different actions. And they can really automate business processes, in some cases from start to finish. So we believe there's this spectrum of agents. And today, I'd say most agentic use cases start with those more simple kind of knowledge agents. But increasingly, we're seeing customers bring in these task-based agents and autonomous agents to automate things end to end.
How about the C-suite leaders? How should they be thinking about investing in agentic technologies for long-term value?
Well, every C-suite leader I talk to today is already in on AI. Like every one of them recognizes that it's a competitive advantage if they can move quickly. And if they don't move quickly, they recognize it could be a disruptive force in their industry. But let's face it, AI, it's transforming businesses, it's transforming functions, it's going to reshape entire industries. And every C-suite leader I talk to recognizes that and wants on board. What they're looking for, though, is a partner. They're looking for the tech, of course. They want to make sure they've got the right tech, but they're also looking for a partner to help them shape this in their business. And that's where Microsoft, I think, comes into play. We're not a large-scale model maker, but we do take the best of the models and bring them into the workplace so that companies can use them.
We're talking about AI being a disruptive technology, probably because it seems that it really can and will affect every part of our work, our lives, et cetera. Certainly is affecting how we create software with new concepts like agents and agentic AI. Curious about your thoughts. Share with us, how does Microsoft view what the transformation is going to be like with AI really having an impact and a big benefit to businesses?
Yeah, many industry pundits will say that this move to AI agents is going to lead to the rise of more consumption-like models or outcome-based pricing. And I think they're right. That's definitely a direction that I see the world shifting as well. The only thing I would balance that with is that many customers are still most comfortable buying things on a per user or per seat basis. And so the approach I'm taking is, how do I enable customers to buy offerings that they're comfortable with? And that's typically like a per user or some type of per tenant type of license, while giving them the flexibility to grow and shift into more consumption models as their business changes. And so we are at an inflection point, just as we said. And I think one of the things that will change is the business model over time.
Talk some more about agentic. When you think about agents operating on their own or more autonomously, and why is that an important thing that organizations are looking to move to?
Yeah, it really comes down to business priorities. Like every business leader I talk to wants to find ways to grow their top line revenue, or they're looking for ways to automate things that they're doing so that they can save money or redirect folks to focus on more important activities. And, autonomous agents really fit that bill. Imagine in the sales context, you can have an autonomous agent, going through marketing leads and qualifying them before handing them off to a human seller. That's work that wouldn't have gotten done in the past or would have been done by a human seller and have been relatively low value, not something they really enjoyed about their job. And so an AI agent can do that and add great value to the company and again, help that company grow on the top line.
Talk about Microsoft and the offering that you have in the context of an end-to-end toolkit, if you will,
Yeah.
for functional transformation.
As far as the toolkit goes, we really believe that there's three essential parts to it. The first is we think every employee should have an AI assistant. In our case, that's Microsoft 365 Copilot. Think of that as a productivity tool to help every employee get through their workday and get more done. It can be quite transformative. That next step up is where agents come into the picture. And I describe agents as really being for every business process or workflow in an organization. And we have a toolkit that enables customers to build their own agents. It starts with Copilot Studio, but even extends into our Azure capabilities with our Azure AI Foundry product. So agents pair very nicely with that Copilot that I described first. And then the final step is where the system of record becomes the system of action. And we'll sometimes call this the agentic business application, where you take a CRM system and you add agents and an assistant to it to really transform. Those three are the essential ingredients or building blocks for AI transformation in a frontier firm or any business at this point.
That's a great term. Can you share some examples of how Microsoft customers are already seeing measurable impact from adopting agentic business applications?
Yeah. One example I think I can give is Lifetime. They're a great customer of ours based here in the United States. They've used us as part of their finance and supply chain operations, and they've deployed agents to basically speed up how they handle and process e-commerce orders. In fact, I think it saved them 95% in terms of their e-commerce order efficiency by deploying AI agents and agentic business applications to solve that problem. So I think that's a great example. We also have another great example from Europe, a large utility named Eneco, who deployed a multi-language AI agent for their customers to help them scale and address customer questions. It's a pretty cool solution, saves them time, and again, helps them scale up. Now, it's a really exciting time in the world of agents.
You talked about the C-suite and the, kind of the three phases in this adoption curve as we adopt AI. What kind of recommendations do you have of like how to get started? Well, maybe near some of the near-term activities.
Well, as I said earlier, I think AI is going to transform every company, every function, every industry, and that opportunity is so vast. Sometimes it's hard to know where to get started. And I've got two bits of advice really there to anybody that is pondering that question. The first thing is, again, start with a function. Pick a function that you want to go after and then peel it like an onion. Go look at the next layer, which are the business processes in that function that you can apply a copilot or agents to to really transform. The other thing, though, is like, don't get into analysis paralysis. Just pick a business process. Just go pick a business process to get started with. And as you learn from applying AI to that business process, whatever it is, whatever your thorniest business process is, go apply AI to it. You are going to learn. Your organization's going to learn. Your culture will adapt. And then it will flow from there. So the opportunity is so vast. Don't let that keep you from getting started. You got to get started, start simple, pick one thing, and go from there.
So as we move to an agentic business environment, let's talk about the people. How do you see the role of human creativity, judgment, leadership? How is that going to evolve?
Yeah, well, that's an excellent question. And one of the things that we'll often talk about is how AI and frontier firms is going to transform the way we work. It's going to change the org chart into more of a work chart. We sometimes talk about frontier firms taking on the Hollywood model, where individuals will swarm around a problem, like focus on a problem, and then disband. Once they've got a solution. And so it's absolutely going to change the way we work with others inside the workplace. It also, I think, is going to give rise to a new idea that we call an agent boss. And you can imagine, just as a people manager today might take work and delegate it to different humans on their team, resolve conflicts and sort of manage performance. Every one of us in the future is going to do that, but not just with humans, but also with agents. So imagine taking a business problem, breaking it up into pieces, delegating it to agents or agents on your team, resolving conflicts that might come up, applying human judgment. It's going to be an absolutely transformational moment. And I'm really excited about it. I really believe that, there is still a huge opportunity for humans with human ambition to go do great work amplified by AI.
Talk a little bit about how you see the difference in the working together between applications, assistants, agents, the different technologies.
Well, that's an excellent question. And we really have this complete toolkit that spans everything from the assistant to the agent to the application. And I think those three things work together in a symbiotic way. As an example, you can imagine that I might go to my assistant and, ask a simple question, my AI assistant like Microsoft 365 Copilot, and ask a question about, summarize the emails or help me respond to the emails I've got. Or I might use an agent to update a CRM record after I meet with a customer. But I'm still going to want to go to an application really that's a purpose-built experience for me if I want a more specialized or fine-tuned experience. So those three things really work together.
Talk a little bit about the industries or maybe the business functions that you expect to see reshaped first by agentic AI transformation.
Yeah, there are three or four, I'd say, functions in particular that are, I'd say, ground zero for functional transformation with AI and agents. Certainly, customer service and customer experience is one that is absolutely being reshaped, and say a very early adopter of AI, no doubt about it. Another where I'm seeing a lot of early AI adoption is in sales. And it's just because, just as we talked about, there's a big opportunity to use AI to basically increase capacity for that organization to grow top line revenue. So the business impact there is undeniable. But I also see it in places like finance and supply chain, where you can use AI to shorten the time it takes from an order to actually being able to ship it that order. We're seeing people use AI to improve accounts payable and accounts receivable. So we're seeing some pretty interesting impacts there.
Let's talk a little bit more about the frontier firms. They're not just adopting technology, they're also changing the way they're doing business around AI agents and Copilot capabilities. Can you talk about what they're doing to invest and support the short-term ROI that they're looking to get for long-term innovation?
The most successful frontier firms are doing actually is taking a functional approach. And so certainly they'll think about their entire company, But they'll really take an approach that's function by function. They'll think about their sales function as an example, and then they'll peel back the onion a little bit and understand which processes inside their sales department they can automate using AI agents as an example. They'll look at which things their salespeople need help with, where you could pair up an assistant like Copilot to help them throughout their workday. And they'll even look at how they can bring agents in to really augment business capacity, maybe to grow top line revenue or take out costs. But starting function by function has really been the recipe that these frontier firms are using to see success. As an example, in our sales organization, by deploying Copilot and agents, we've been able to improve revenue per seller, in some cases by almost 10% in some organizations. And if you think about that, giving a seller 10% more capacity is like giving them an additional month in a year without actually having them spend any extra hours through the work week. And so there's some pretty remarkable results. That's just sales. We've been able to do the same in customer service, in our finance department, in our IT department. Our legal team has been able to reduce costs by 5%. By deploying AI and agents within their functions.
How do we ensure trust and transparency as agentic systems become more and more autonomous?
Yeah. Well, there's two things that we want to do to help with trust and transparency. The first is we have a rigorous set of principles on responsible AI. So for any AI that Microsoft deploys, we adhere to an important set of guidelines. And that's really table stakes. So that's the first piece, responsible AI and our focus there. The second thing that I think is important is we now have an opportunity to start to quantify the value and the impact that many agents will have. And we often will call that in the industry, we'll call that evals or benchmarks. And increasingly, I think we have an opportunity to help our customers understand how agents are being effective in their workplace using these evals and benchmarks on real world problems. So for example, a typical workflow will be a sales leader doing sales research to try to understand like how they might want to organize accounts or territories or reshape planning as they think about the year ahead. We recently released a new benchmark that we call the Sales Research Bench, and it shows how agents can actually help sales leaders in that very specific job, and it's quantified. And so I think you'll start to see more of that. And between following responsible AI standards and then using quantitative measures like evals and benchmarks to understand efficacy, I think we're really on the cusp of helping customers know how they can deploy AI in a safe way for real business results.
Well, thank you, Brian, for sharing with us your insights and kind of look into the future. What's happening with agentic business applications?
Thank you very much.
It's really amazing the pace at which AI has been adopted and continues to evolve. The technology evolves on a near daily basis. But at the same time, organizations have to figure out how they're going to implement their AI strategies and what the business outcomes that they're most important to their business. I think it's very fascinating how Microsoft has approached the market, both from the standpoint of addressing the individual and their productivity, but also thinking about new workflows, new models of business, but doing that with not a set of tools, but a set of capabilities that provide integration with data, process, workflow, and agentic AI. No one knows for sure what the future holds and what an agentic business might really, really look like. But in situations like today, when we remove constraints of what we can do with technology thanks to AI, that's where the possibilities are created. Using tools like Copilot, using applications like Dynamics 365, and we'll see what end users as well as technologists bring to bear in their ideas and how they reshape businesses for today and tomorrow. I don't know about you, but I'm super excited about the future that we're creating together, thanks to working with technology companies and with end users like yourself.
My name is David Erickson. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Forward Networks. We're happy to be here. We love this program. So today I'm going to set up a little bit about the problem statement, what we've been up to as a company, and then we'll lead into what's new and exciting that we have to share with you today. So at the beginning, let me talk a little bit about some of the problems that we see in networking today and what Forward Networks is doing to help with them. Networks are more critical than ever. Yet there's far too many similarities in how we operate these today and how we've operated them for decades. We love our CLIs. You can take those out of our cold, dead hands. We love our Excel, our Notepad++ mops. We love our printed out Visio diagrams, network Visio diagrams that we slam in a drawer or maybe put on the wall. And in the back of our head, we know that the minute they were printed out, they're probably out of date. But why does this matter? The reason is because the customers of our networks, the applications, the end users, and the adversaries are evolving at a rate far faster than we are evolving our operational models. And our humans that are tasked with maintaining, evolving these networks, they're experiencing incredibly high operational workloads. And this is largely due to just the sheer complexity of modern networking. So Cisco published some research last year in 2025, and they've discovered that the belief is that enterprise networks are fundamentally being reshaped, and this is largely due to AI workloads, cloud workloads, and also very data-intensive workloads. And that 94% of the CIOs that they polled as part of this research felt that the bulk of that was going to happen in the next 2 years. And lastly, AI is not something that's just in a lab any longer. It's not being beta tested. Incredible quantities of dollars are being invested into AI, and it is being deployed en masse across our networks. And AI requires reliable, performant, secure networks. Over the last decade, companies have really raised the bar on application delivery and end user experience. Applications have become more available, more responsive, and more distributed by design. So we've seen the technology stacks shift to keep up. We've got virtualized networks, we have cloud and multi-cloud architectures, we have SaaS, we have microservices. But again, what didn't really change is our operational approach. Teams are now managing applications and systems that change faster, that interact more tightly and leave less margin for error. And this is a rate of change and a complexity problem for all of us. And AI is only making that worse due to the velocity, the scale, and the blast radius that comes from it. And so in the last few years, we have been steadily increasing the level of visibility that we have into network packets, into network performance. We've taken that and we've brought it up to the application level, so we get similar kinds of visibility there. And that's been great. It has expanded our understanding of what's going on in these environments. That's all positive. But this approach just fundamentally cannot understand nor answer whole classes of basic yet critical questions, such as what's in my network, how is it connected, how is that changing over time, what is the security posture, what is the attack surface of my network, is it compliant, and even is the behavior that this network exhibits in line with the intent that I had when I designed and built it. Let me just share an analogy that I think might be helpful from the medical world. So for the last hundreds, maybe thousands of years, we have been reactively measuring with instruments and tools symptoms that people who have had problems, patients, are exhibiting. And we've done this with humans, doctors, that have been incredibly highly trained, years and years and years of expertise and experience, which also makes it an availability problem to get to these people, as we've probably also all experienced. And as a species, we've kind of limped by with this methodology for a very long time. We've made it work, but it's been far from optimal. And so in the latter half of the 20th century, there were major technological breakthroughs that allowed us to have full body imaging scanning of our bodies with CT scans, with MRIs. And this fundamentally changed and gave doctors access to full 3D images of our systems. And that totally changed the operational model that they have for diagnostics on us as humans, and also how they prescribed treatment plans going forward. And we could all certainly imagine a future where the cost of those scans, the cost of the equipment continues to decrease such that we're using these routinely in our lives to even do preventative things on very minor medical challenges. 12 years ago, when we founded Forward Networks, we recognized that networking was still firmly on the left side of this diagram, and that had to change. We needed to help it move to the right side. And I'm happy to report over the last dozen years that the team at Forward Networks has had those and made those amazing technological breakthroughs happen and done all of the hard work to move the network to that right side of the diagram, to the future. And we have built a mathematically accurate digital twin of the network. You're going to hear me use this term mathematically a number of times in the remaining part of the presentation. Nikhil will use it later as well. And I want to give it a little bit of the definition because I think it's important and it's distinguishing in the approach and what we do. So the background of the platform that we have is based on math. My co-founder, Payman, his PhD research at Stanford was all about how do you take a global, incredibly complicated network and break down all of its behavioral pieces into math, and actually using math, using functions, using transformations, using mathematical primitives to do that. And you might ask, why? Okay, great, but why? The incredible thing that comes out of that is because it's now broken down using math, you can create mathematical proofs of things that are critical to you. Imagine compliance, imagine security, imagine reliability and availability. All of those things become possible because of the underlying mathematics that are the underpinning, the core of everything that we do at Forward Networks. This is not marketing spin. This is critical core elements that are unique to Forward Networks. So what is the input? What does it take to build this twin other than the math? So we have to exhaustively go out and collect from every single device in the network that moves packets. Think collection of configuration and protocol state from every single one of those protocols that are operating inside the network. And we do this across switches, routers, load balancers, firewalls, Wi-Fi, SD-WAN, you name it. If it's moving packets, we are collecting all of the data necessary from it to create this behaviorally accurate replica. We also do this in the cloud. So as you're all aware, clouds create a network abstraction that we use as consumers of those clouds, and we can go to all of them and collect the same level of data about that abstraction to be able to answer similar questions about cloud and multi-cloud architectures. So think the Amazons, Googles, Microsofts, IBMs, all of their clouds.
Hey, David.
Question, yeah.
Ray Lucchese, Silverton Consulting. We've had recent networking discussions about policy-based load balancing and things of that nature. You mimic that in queuing theory, math, or something like that?
We do. We break down the configuration of these load balancers so we can show you what behind the load balancers is available, what is the path through them, all of that information.
So it's almost on a, seemed like it was a packet by packet level basis. They could route it differently or, something of that nature. I mean, you have that sort of fine granularity?
Yeah, so there are certainly scenarios where the chipset is going to take actions based on, let's say, the current traffic load level that's going into there. What we will model is all possible ways that it can behave, and then you can reason about that. Because sometimes, like the hashing algorithms and things of that nature are not exposed out, right? They're proprietary to that particular vendor. So we'll show you all possible ways, and you can validate for yourself that each of those ways is in fact what you expect, and that's how we will model and present that.
Is the model using primarily for diagnostics, or is it for performance assessment, evaluation, or?
Great question. Let me get there in just a minute.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so I've spoke about the network and the cloud collection. We also bring in security data. So we are collecting all of the vulnerabilities that are being disclosed by vendors. We're bringing that into the platform. I'll talk about that in just a minute, what we do with it. Also performance, so think counters of links, CPU, and memory. And then last but definitely not least is business data. So if you have structured or unstructured business data or data out of other applications, we can bring that in, provide context to all of the networking, enrich it, and get multiplicative value out of it. So that's all the data that's flowing into the digital twin. Once we have it, then we do all of our mathematical behavioral analysis on it, and we get to the insights and the value. So we know everything about the behavior of how the network works with this digital twin. So we can answer questions about inventory, what's in it, how does it behave, how is it changing over time, what are the security properties, am I compliant, what's happening across this change window, is it having the intent that I expected. It's a wide-ranging set of information that we can offer to our customers, and we'll talk a little more about ROI later as well. But all of this is available via our UI and API effectively instantly. It's incredibly responsive, and you'll see it all live in the next session. This is not just for networking teams. This is also for security teams, for compliance, for anybody that's operating business revenue generating applications or just critical internal applications. They can all consume this. And the best part is having a centralized platform that everybody collaborates around to understand, get answers, make insights, and make everything in the business work together more quickly. So once you have forward networks in your environment, you can make this operational shift from the old world, where I'm sure many people around this table are familiar, having to go out and manually research and spend hours and hours extracting data from various locations in the network, trying to fuse that together, talking to your peers in the organization to attempt to build up some confidence in what you're trying to do or what's happening, maybe reaching out to forums or Reddit, trying to ask the internet for assistance. All of that you can leave in the past, and you can shift to this new operational model where you have all of the data available within the digital twin, one click away or a couple clicks away, and all of that is instant around the things that I spoke about earlier. Behavior, what is in the inventory, security, compliance, all of these use cases apply incredibly well there.
So this is Frederick Van Haren from High Fence Consulting. So what do you do with like firmware changes? I mean, the behavior can change, so you deal with firmware changes?
Yeah, so that goes to how do we know that our digital twin is correctly mirroring what's happening in the production network. So we have a whole fleet of equipment that we have bought or borrowed from our vendor partners. That is, we are walking through all of the firmware versions, including the new ones. We have whole packet test harnesses set up to these to automate an incredibly deep set of validations to ensure that we understand precisely how this device will behave based on any kind of configuration, input, as well as peers that are running all the distributed protocols. So we're confident in this, and we are validating this with real packets on a 24/7 basis.
Because that makes it a lot more complex, right? The amount of combinations.
Absolutely.
Exponential.
Exactly right. And when we formed the company, we knew that this was the problem space that we had to solve. And frankly, we're solving on behalf of all of our customers, right? Because the customers would need to do this too. They need to understand, maybe not to the breadth and depth, they'd have to know, for their particular use case. But for us to solve it universally, we're taking that work away from them, and they're shifting that burden to us, and we're solving it on their behalf.
So do you also mirror your network traffic into this network?
Great question. We do not. So the only input that we need to build the digital twin is the configuration and the state out of these devices. We don't need any of the actual packets.
So how do you know the changes you make will be valid for the traffic that you're getting?
Yeah, so that goes back to the behavioral model. So you'll see some of this in the demo later, But if you're like, let's give an example. If your intent is, I need to open a firewall rule to allow this new flow for this application to work end to end, we model all of that and we'll validate the before and the after of that change to tell you, yes, this new flow is possible given the network.
This is Marion Newsom. I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Where in the architecture does this sit? Is this like downstream or upstream from like NetOps and security ops?
I would say it's across all of those, to be honest. One of the beautiful things, again, is historically you've seen this separation where the security teams and the network teams are operating their own pieces of software that are attempting to gather sometimes overlapping, sometimes distinct data out of the network. And we're bringing one unique platform to bear that covers all of it.
Good, thank you. I guess you'll get into the new section of the slide, so I'll wait.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very shortly, thank you. Okay, so just closing out on this slide. Our software helps people de-risk operations and improve confidence, and that's a major shift in their operating cadence. You don't need to take my word exclusively for this. IDC went and interviewed a bunch of our customers and determined that on average they're experiencing over $14 million in ROI a year, and dollars and cents obviously important. But I think just another piece that's not on the slide here is humans that have to do this work every single day, keeping these networks up, secure, it's a lot of toil. And we're eliminating the majority of that toil so that software is handling the collection, the analysis, the normalization, and then humans can move up the stack and do things they enjoy that are more strategic for the business. Now, what have we been up to aside from all of this great work? What have we been doing the last 12 years? We've been deploying this software across some of the biggest, most complex, most secure, most mission-critical networks on the planet. And this is battle-proven, battle-tested hardware at the biggest of the big. And it has, again, changed the way that they operate networks. We routinely hear we can't imagine operating our network any longer without forward networks. But it is not exclusively for the biggest networks out there. If you operate a network that is critical to your employees or your business or your mission, we can help, and we can help substantially. And we have small customers all the way up to large, but you can know that if it works on the largest, most complex, it will work for you.
So David, Ray Lucchese, Silver
Yeah.
Consultant, you mentioned it was hardware. This is actually a software solution? Or?
It is software.
Okay, yeah.
Yep, we can deploy as a SaaS or on-premise.
Okay.
Yep. So we've done all of this using a beautiful, modern graphical user interface and, of course, the API behind that. But as with even the easiest to use graphical user interface, there is still a little bit to learn. And we're going to demo this to you in a minute, so you see just a hint of this now, but we'll get into it. And that little bit of learn still represents a little bit of a barrier to entry. You got to know where to go inside the UI. You got to know how to get the data, put it together. And so we thought and we wondered, could we lower that bar even further? Could we make knowing the network effortless? And I'm excited to introduce to you today Forward AI, where we have done that. We have created a interface that is conversational in English that you can come to and ask substantially any question that you want that has network security, and business data behind it, and we can get you those answers. This enables safe, trusted agentic operations. Again, reminder on how we used to have to manually go and get data, string together workloads, and make that all happen.
So David,
yeah.
Does this mean you support an MCP server so that LLMs and things of that nature can actually access your model?
We do, and Nikhil will cover that in just a minute. We want to be a fantastic player in the ecosystem, supporting data in and data out. So because of having the digital twin, which is the underpinning data for what we are doing, it allows these trusted, safe agentic operations Still human supervised, of course, but you can work and operate far faster. And that is the incredible thing that is being introduced today. It's not vaporware, so this exists today. We've had a set of customers that have been testing this, and I just wanted to share a quote from one of them where they indicated that, yes, they can ask those questions in plain language and get trusted answers with ground truth and real network data. And for them, they felt like it was like turning the lights on in a dark room. It was that level of impact in their operations.
So David, how do you deploy? I mean, do you go out with agents and understand the configuration, or they provide that configuration to you, or what's the deployment look like?
Yeah, so we will deploy either on-premise in one or multiple VMs, like a small cluster, or if you're using SaaS, all of the computation exists in the cloud, and you deploy a small lightweight application on-premise that does the collection. So it is the discovery agent into your network to help you figure out all the devices that exist there. And then it goes and collects all of the information and then either keeps it on-premise in the on-premise instance or moves it up to SaaS for all the computation in the SaaS instance. All right, lastly, and I'm going to hand this over to Nikhil. If you like what you see today, there is more coming. We're incredibly excited about Forward AI. We're incredibly excited about moving the operational model forward and really helping people get into that future. But we have a deep roadmap where we're excited to continue to disrupt and bring change to this world.